I've got to tell you just how thrilled I am to be standing in the presence of such great people in education. From the AVID teachers, to the counselors, to the staff developers, administrators, and of course, these fantastic students. This is truly a thrill for me. About a year ago, I met a young woman named Lauren Handler. Lauren was a graduate student at Sacramento State University just up the freeway here. And Lauren was so impressed by the AVID college readiness system that she wrote her doctoral dissertation on successfully serving the underserved, profiles of AVID teachers. And in her thesis, Dr. Handler suggests that there is no intentional or deliberate rubric in the AVID universe to describe what makes AVID teachers great. And so she sets out to describe those attitudes and those skill sets and those practices that combine to make those teachers so successful at serving the underserved students. Coincidentally, I had been thinking too about this very thing. And so I went to my students, the seniors of South Tahoe High School, the great class of 2013, and I asked them, what are the characteristics that combine to make a great AVID teacher? And they said, we don't know, we don't have one. Nevertheless, they helped me come up with a list. They helped me come up with a list of what I'm going to call the 11 essentials for the AVID teacher. And then I started thinking about the word essential, necessary. By definition, it's a very small number. Really, 11 essentials? Who does that? So instead, I would like to suggest 5 essentials for the AVID teacher. Starting with essential 5, we persist. We persist because the results are worth it. The Colorado River took 17.5 million years to form the Grand Canyon. Never took a day off, never quit. We will hear, if we haven't heard already, every one of our AVID students say to us, we want to quit. There will be times, perhaps, when you have wanted to quit. Instead, we repeat to our students over and over again, it's worth it, it's worth it, it's worth it. Like I said, this year I was honored to be the AVID senior seminar teacher at South Tahoe High School, and in the 3 years since I met my students as sophomores, I know that every student has wanted to drop out of AVID. Some of them, the day they met me. It's too hard, they say. I'll never be able to pass that AP class. I'll never get into college. No, I say to them, it's worth it. Hang in there. And now I'm happy to say I am their greatest ally and best friend. They absolutely love me. Which brings us to essential 4. Sometimes we have to be the bad guy. It's okay. It's what we do. I have 2 sons, as Karen mentioned. I don't know much, but I know this. If parents hover over their children when they're learning how to walk, it's going to take those children a lot longer to learn how to walk. And we watch them take those tenuous steps, and they teeter, and we know what's coming. We know they're going to fall, but we refrain from catching them, and they fall. And they hurt themselves, and they look at us with such hurt in their eyes as if to say, why did you let me fall? And we're able to say to them, I let you fall because I know someday you're going to learn how to run. We encourage our students even though we know they're going to fall. Which brings us to the 3rd essential that we as AVID professionals do very well. And this is going to sound really funny at a conference whose theme is In Pursuit of Success. It is essential that we fail. AVID teachers fail often, and we fail with gusto. Our society is so obsessed with success that we forget that it's through failure that we grow. We learn from falling flat on our faces. Failure tells us that we're in the race, that we are indeed in pursuit of success. And failure tells us what we need to do better next time. I'll be the first one to admit I failed several times this year in my planning, in my follow-through, in my dealing with certain students. AVID teachers and AVID students who fail now are going to do better next time. I'm going to plan better next time. I'm going to follow through better next time. I'm going to deal with those students better next time. Our students are going to take better Cornell notes. They're going to organize their time better. They're going to organize those binders. Where would we be today, for example, if it weren't for the Apple Lisa? Now, if you don't know what the Apple... Isn't he a handsome guy? If you don't know what the Apple Lisa is, the Apple Lisa was a program that was scrapped by Steve Jobs and the people at Apple. And they deferred instead to the technology behind the Macintosh. The Macintosh led eventually to the iPads, the iPods, and the iPhones that are so ubiquitous today. How many of you have one of those devices? Or, see what I mean? Through failure. Steve Jobs never stopped asking questions. Can we do better? Can we make this product better? It drove his employees crazy. But still he asked, which brings us to Essential 2. AVID teachers ask questions more often than we make statements. Inquiry is not the private property of AVID. It's a tried and true approach to living life. I was at a dinner party once, and the discussion came around to, of all things, world hunger. I know how to party. So there we are, sitting around. There were professionals there, a doctor, psychiatrist. We're sitting in a circle. I'm thinking, cool, Socratic seminar. I was quickly disappointed. The conversation just deteriorated into pompous proclamations and statements of opinion. And I remember remarking to my wife on the way home, I know a couple hundred AVID students who could have done a much better job with that topic. We apply the lessons from the classroom to our daily lives, which brings us to the #1 essential for the AVID teacher. We work our way to obsolescence. Now, as you heard from Karen, I've been teaching for over 30 years. When you think about it, our life is dedicated to making ourselves unnecessary. One of the greatest gifts we can give our students is the ability to have them sitting in their college classrooms that first semester, that first quarter, that first term, and everybody else around them is coming unglued, and they're able to say, you know what? I've got this. I've got the skills to succeed. I'm going to be okay. How is it that we are able to let go to that degree of our students? It's simple. We care. Dr. Handler, who I mentioned earlier, points this out in her thesis. She says one of the dominant practices that AVID teachers practice is that we regularly show our students that we care. When I started teaching in 1982, some very well-intentioned friends and colleagues warned me about teacher burnout. That was a phrase lifted from a report by Christina Maslach in her report called Burnout, the Cost of Caring. If I cared too much about my students, they said, I wouldn't last very long in this profession. Well, I'm here to tell you that for me, the exact opposite is true. In fact, there's been nothing more satisfying and invigorating in my career than the connections and bonds that I've made with fellow professionals and with students. And nowhere are those bonds stronger than in the AVID college readiness system. So now, I have 100 children and 3 brand new sisters in my AVID family, Sue, Sabrina, and Julia. Sue teaches AVID across the hall, Julia next door, Sabrina in the next building over. I can talk to them about anything. They know my strengths and they know my weaknesses. My wish for you is that you enjoy the same strong bonds in your careers as I have. And AVID Summer Institutes are a great place to forge those bonds. Thank you very much. Dream big.